To all those people watching, I'd like to remind everyone that this video is not made for kids. It's for older fans and adults. Enjoy the fucking video!
One morning, Sir Robert Norrby came to the sheds to see Duke. A party of scouts are to be camping on the grounds along the Skarloey, and they're to be dropped off at Gate on Gordon's local train. Duke, Mr. Percival wants you to go and collect them since the other engines are busy. Stanley will take your passengers for you until you return. Yes, your grace, replied Duke happily. He was excited. He remembered taking scouts back on his day on the Mid-Sodor Railway. Ah, the scouts, a wonderful way to teach children life skills through adventure and challenge. Knowing you, Duke, I think you will make an excellent scout leader, chuckled Sir Robert. Duke chuckled as well. He puffed away with his coaches and went straight to Crovan's Gate. He waited and waited for Gordon, but the big blue engine didn't come. Where is that Gordon? He huffed crossly. This would never suit his grace. At last Gordon showed up. Tut tut tut, Gordon, you're late. It's these scout members, Gordon complained. They've been mucking around in one of my carriages, opening and closing doors while we're on the move, running up and down the corridors like a racehorse, and being a nuisance to the passengers in the other coaches too. I remember scout members being civil and kind, not rowdy. I don't know what you're complaining about, Gordon. They look fine to me. Well, good luck, Duke, because these types of scouts would never suit your grace. Mark my words. And he puffed crossly away. Duke puffed along the line with the scouts behind in his coaches. And so far there haven't been any nonsense. I think Gordon has been silly. So far there haven't been any shenanigans from these scouts. But the scouts were becoming bored, and soon they began to shout and scream. Duke was surprised. Hey now! What's with all the noise? Soon the scouts began to open the windows and slammed it down hard, as if it was a toy. The coach that was carrying them didn't like that at all. Ooh, she wailed. Stop that, please! Ouch! But the scouts just laughed and thought it was fun. Another got her head out of the window and was waving her arm and making some funny noises. Nearby, a tree with hanging branches was dangling near the line. The Girl Scout was still having fun until the driver noticed the tree and the girl at the same time. He applied Duke's brakes just in time. Then he walked towards the Girl Scout. Now listen to me, young lady. You should keep your arms and legs inside the carriage at all times. There's a tree here with loose branches. If I hadn't stopped in time, you wouldn't be waving that arm of yours anymore. But the Girl Scout just giggled. Where's the Scoutmaster? fumed Duke. More and more delays were caused thanks to the scouts, and more time was being wasted. They arrived at Lakeside so the scouts could have a break. but they were still mucking around, and the passengers nearby stood there looking very disappointed by the behaviour. Those silly scouts. I don't remember being like that when I was a kid. Kids these days. Even Duke was getting cross with them. Gordon is right. These kids are a living misery. And he puffed away. Must have a word with the scoutmaster once we get to the campsite. They arrived at the campsite, and soon the scouts and their leader made their way with the supplies. When they had placed their equipment, the scouts were starting to be a pain again. They ran around, hitting each other, tackling, and so on. The scout leader was trying to make them calm down, but to no avail. Eventually they stopped. Oh, what a pain, sighed the scout leader. Would you like some help? Asked Duke. No, thank you, replied the scout leader. I can handle it. Duke sighed, and he made his way back to the castle. Later he arrived at Crovan's gate, and there waiting for him was of all engines, Gordon. Feeling slow today, Duke? He teased. You were right about those scouts, Gordon. Sorry for doubting you earlier. I think the scoutmaster might have leadership problems. I could tell he needs some help, but he doesn't want any. He said he could handle it himself. Handle it? Pah! Huffed Gordon. He needs all the help he could get with those kids. And he puffed away. As the days passed, the scouts were still being a nuisance at their campground. They'd been a nuisance to Duke and the other engines as well. Whenever one of them passes by, they scream, shout, yell, and make funny faces at them. That would never suit his grace. The scout leader tried his best to keep them organized, but to no avail, and he had enough. He later saw Duke puffing towards the campsite with a truck filled with some food and drinks. Let me guess, the scouts have been a bit of a handful? Yes, replied the scoutmaster, sighing in defeat. I was under training to be a scout leader, but then my supervisor had come down with a stomach bug and had tasked me to look after the scouts while he was away. I don't know how much about being a leader, despite telling you earlier this week that I could handle it. I understand. I used to look after 2 young engines once. Both were handfuls. But I soon got them straight back on the mid-sodo. Perhaps I'll give you a few pointers. First, you must be mutually respectful towards them. Second, you must build credibility towards them. Be patient, avoid loss of credibility. Be confident, stay humble, and admit your mistakes. Thirdly, be someone fun towards them, and finally try to relate them. You got that? Indeed I did. Thanks, Duke. My pleasure. And when the supplies were unloaded, he puffed away. More days had passed, and Duke could see that the scout leader had been following Duke's lesson. The scouts were more respectful, and not have been causing trouble towards anybody. It was the day before the scouts were to head for home, and at one of the stations, the scout leader was talking to Duke. He was planning to put his scouts to the test after his resurgence as a leader. The next day it was time for the scouts to head home. The scouts were waiting at the campsite with their scout leader for Duke. They were excited to be going home, and they were going to have a party at their local scout hall the next day. They could hear Duke coming. But what they didn't expect was that Duke raced past them, leaving them stranded at the campsite. Hey, wait! Come back! Shouted the scout leader, but Duke was out of earshot. The children were worried. What are we going to do, Scoutmaster? They asked. Well, Skarloey Station has a bit of a distance. but we'll have to make our way there to catch our train home. Right, forward, march! To pass the time, they sang songs to each other and ate and drank their snacks to keep themselves malnourished. Then the scout leader heard Duke's whistle in the distance. Do you hear that, troop? We're close! The troop cheered and they raced towards the sound. Hold it! He called. We must stay together. Otherwise, one of us might get lost or injured. Follow me. The troop cheered when they saw Duke, and once when they came to the station, the scout leader turned towards Duke and said, Well done, Duke. The plan worked. Plan? What plan? One of the scouts asked. Duke and the scout leader laughed. Duke racing past us earlier was all planned, so that I could put my leadership skills to the test and see just how much development you all had. You lot had come a long way since we started this trip. You'd all become more obedient. I give thanks to you, Duke, for your help. No problem, smiled the old engine. Let's hope that these scouts are like that on the way back to Gate. Indeed, agreed the scout leader, and so they did. There wasn't any window banging or children hanging their arms out of their windows or any rambunctious behaviour back to Gate. Gordon was at the station collecting them for his local train. He was surprised to see how much the scouts had changed. All it takes is good leadership.